Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the FPL Addicts podcast. We are, of course, sponsored by the wonderful people at Bonus Bank. We are back to preview Game Week 25. And when I say we, it is myself, Oliver Walker-Peel. I've not been here in so long, so it is really nice to be back. And alongside me, to start the episode, of course, we've got Mr. Chris Reed joining us later on. But to start the episode, we have the man, the myth, the mullet, the clutch commentator, Charlie Roberts. How are we doing, mate?
Good evening, Oliver. Can I say what an honour it is to join alongside you, just like last Saturday, FPL's social event, which we did in Abbotsford, and that was so much fun. Looking forward to this coming game week 25. 4 sides having a double game week 2. There's a lot riding onto it.
Yeah, there certainly is, and we're going to go in a couple of segues in a row here because we are going to talk about the FPL social that me and Chaz did front. Of course, on Saturday, which was quite a good event. We were in the smaller room this time down there, downstairs in Melbourne, a more intimate room. It was really cool to have some of the regulars there. We had SideNet there, FPL West Ham was there. We had, who else was there? I'm losing my mind already.
That's okay.
Had,
Did you want me to help you out with this?
FPL Echidna. We had
Ben Garucho is our special guest. We have
course,
Billy Stew,
he was brilliant.
2021 champion.
I'm tuned out of the Twitter world. I just know people by name at this point. But we had loads of people there. It was good fun. Awesome to do that again. We were fronting the event, as I say. And we do have another one coming. Fresh hot off the press. The 4th FPL social event will be held in October time in Sydney. So we're going to be there. We're going to be running it just like we did the second one. Of course, that was a good event. The second one we did in Sydney earlier on in the season, which was late last year, of course, in 2022. We are going to be there. Early bird tickets are already on sale. So, I mean, I don't think anybody will have grabbed them by this point because it wasn't announced to the public, but it's announced here. So if you want to go and get your tickets and join us over in Sydney for October, you'd be more than welcome to. We'll both be there. Should be an absolute ball of a time, if anything is to go off from the last one we did in Sydney in October of last year. Chaz, immediate reaction.
Wow. Can I just say, I love the introduction. Big bombshell announcement. What a way to do it on the podcast. We'll certainly be there. The last time we went to Sydney was so much fun. I'm buzzing for the 4th edition. And wow, we're just not stopping. I love it.
Yeah, there's, when we're on a run, we may as well keep it up, and that is exactly what we are going to do. We've got people in the chat already. That is exactly what we want to see. So we shall get rolling, shall we, Chaz? In the review of the game week just gone, and for me, it was quite a decent game week. Of course, we've had Reedy joke about it, haven't we? Earlier on tonight for us over here. If we can just find the league, as I try to scroll down and find it. I'm not prepared. It's been a while since I've done this. I do apologise. But Reedy was making the joke that, I'm only coming back on because I've had a decent week. It's the first time in forever that I've had a decent week. And of course, that's the week that I decide to come on. But he can say what he likes, can Chris Reed. But I am here, and we're going to talk about my team. But we're going to talk about yours first, Chaz. We're going to go by league standings. And unfortunately for yourself, you are propped up at the bottom of the league. Not a bad week for you, though. 57 points, much better than the average of 44. 1.5 million, just under in the game week rank. Talk us through it, mate.
Well, the only blessing of me being last in the mini league is that my podcast review of my own team gets over and done with just right away, and we can focus on the other 5. Wasn't too bad. I think United assets were fantastic, and Marcus Rashford, Bruno Fernandes, as well as Bukayo Saka from Arsenal. The captain did let me down, and looking back on it, he missed a sitter from 5 yards. He scored a hat-trick in the reverse fixture. But since the turn of the new year, Nottingham Forest have had a very decent record at home, especially against top opponents too. in this season, they've beaten Liverpool. They drew to Chelsea. They drew to Man City. From what I know, from the top of my head, they're a very attacking side, but we do know Forest are renowned for being leaky down back. Good stuff from Luke Shaw with a clean sheet too, and the usual Harry Kane assist. If truth be told, not a whole lot special, but it was a green arrow, and that's what I'm pleased about.
Yeah, I'm sure you'll take it. And Miriam's got confidence in you. I don't know how many of the FPL Addicts pod share it, but at least there's someone out there who backs you in to get to the top.
Oh, Miriam. Oh, she is an absolute legend. One of Rev's friends from Merseyside. Because I was doing the Finnegan's podcast with Rev, and she was one of the people that comments a lot, and she still does in the weekly episodes of the Finnegan. So shout out to you, Miriam. Thank you for dropping by.
Miriam. Good to have you here, Miriam. We do love to see it. 57 points for you, Chaz. Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford really helping out your game week. Nice contributions as well from Bukayo Saka. What a legend he is on and off the pitch. Luke Shaw continuing his career resurgence with 6 points there to help your team. Obviously, it's just me and Chaz here, but briefly, Reedy with 63. He'll join us later. I'm sure we can have a little run over there. Myself in
you
fourth.
Trust Reedy to join us later?
Well, of course, you back a man on his word, don't you? I certainly will, because Reedy is that type of guy. Unless he's sleeping in which case, then he's not joining us. But it's 10:15 in the UK. Get yourself sorted, mate. I'm sure he'll be joining us later on. But my team this week could have been awesome if not for Nick Pope doing Nick Pope things. Just like the Carabao Cup next weekend, or this weekend coming, I should say, in a couple of days' time, he will not be featuring in my team going forward. It's one of those ones. 3 points, negative, red card. What was he thinking? Miles out of his box, handles the ball. They're already 2-0 down. He misses the cup final. He's had a mare. The one thing I will take out of this game week, captaining Marcus Rashford, what a decision. There was we had a bit of a talk about it at FPL Social, didn't we? About it was either Rashford or Haaland. I just fancied Rashford. He's on an insane run. In terms of Premier League football, he's the best player in form in the world right now, I think. Well, I say in the world. I just said Premier League football. I'm just contradicting myself. But he is, if not the most informed player in the world, certainly one of them. And he's been amazing. 30 points for me as the captain. 2 goals against Leicester there, which really helped him or helped me get up the leagues and helped him stay in form. Bruno Fernandes, we've already talked about, 12 points. Erdegaard with 8. We had Luke Shaw with 6, and then just a couple of blanks in and around it, just inside the top 400k for the game week. And I take a green arrow finally. It seemed like so long since I've taken a really massive green arrow, and I managed to do it there this week. So I'll certainly take it.
Very nice stuff, Ollie. I'm very curious to know, because we've got the run in for the season with only a handful of game weeks to go. And a lot of the listeners on the podcast know you used your TC in game week 3. Are you, to an extent, regretting the decision and using the triple captainship earlier on?
Yes, of course. Yeah, of course I am. Look, I had it on Salah when Liverpool weren't looking as bad as they are now, and Man United were looking horrendous. And of course, Salah got a hat-trick in the fixture last season when those two teams played. And I just thought that, Salah would have done the same, got a massive haul. Hindsight's 2020. I'll never burn a chip that early again, or triple captainship that early. But speaking of chips, we like a good segue, don't we, on this podcast?
Oh, we love
chips. I'm playing another one this week. I'm playing one.
Wild card.
I'm playing my wild card, mate. Okay. I'm playing my wild card. It's happening. I'm doing it. And this is my team for the week.
Let's just go straight into team selection. Why don't we?
Let's go for team selection. Just because it was perfectly set up, wasn't it?
Aren't I stupid saying stuff early?
No. It's perfect, mate. We absolutely nailed it. So this is my team for the week as it stands. You can save your team for slightly later, Chaz, and I'm sure he's later on because he has said that he will join us. He says, "Don't worry, little mullet pal." A little bit condescending there from Chris Reed, but
he's really have a look at him.
He's put the worries to rest, which is good. But yeah, this is my team for the week. I start with Ramsdale in goal, Emerson, Robertson, White, and Mikolenko on my back four. Andreas, Saka, and Salah in midfield. I've got the armband on Bukayo Saka at the moment. Haaland, Ollie Watkins, and Wilfred Gnonto on my front three. On the bench, I've got Danny Ward, who's playing, and then Rashford, Fernandes, and Estupiñán, who aren't. Chaz, I don't think you've seen this team at this point. I sent it through to the group chat we've got yesterday. I made a few changes to it since then. What do you think?
Doesn't look too bad. I find it very interesting playing the wild card this early into the run-in, but it's all very team dependent. I like the Mikalenko pick. I think that would prove as a point of difference. I just need to zoom in properly. I love a Bukayo Saka captaincy bit pick. For this coming game week, I do see it between the Salah versus Saka pick. And we'll get to captaincy corner shortly. Willie Nonto, and for cultural purposes, I absolutely love it how he's in your team. I'm not even joking. Ollie Watkins away at Everton. From what I can recall, he does fare all right against Everton. So Emerson down back at home to Forest. More so, the big fundamental is can Hammers keep a clean sheet? Because they've only kept 2 since October. Love a Ramsdale pick in between the sticks too. You're keeping Fernandez, Rashford, which is understandable. I'm curious to know behind the Stupian hold too.
Well, he's not a hold. I'm actually bringing him in. I didn't have a Stupinian. I wanted a Brighton player. Brighton's form at the minute has been pretty good. And him as part of the defence, he's been brilliant at the moment. If you look at his form, 7 points average over the past 5 game weeks, I believe the form's calculated on. And Brighton have got a double coming up, which is something else I wanted to talk about, is the amount of double game weeks we've got coming up. It's crazy. And I think this playing the wild card now before realising that has put me in good stead because I can just plan for that wild card, plan for the double game weeks in the future, I should say. We'll have a look at the fixtures here. So doubling up this week, we've of course got Arsenal, who we talked about briefly. We've got Everton. We've got Liverpool. They're probably the biggest ones playing the double game week. But if we just roll it forward ever so slightly to game week 27, there's a few there as well. We've got Brighton and Crystal Palace are doubling up, which is, there's a bit of an issue, I think, with that fixture, actually, because the reason why it was postponed initially was because of the train strikes. And I think there are more around that time. So we may have to watch the space on that one. But I still think, regardless of that, I think Estupinian is a good pick. We roll it forward again.
Game 29. Yeah, let's have a look at this. This is where it gets really interesting.
Look at those fixtures. If you look at the teams that double here, you've got Leeds who are doubling.
Good week watching football.
You've got Villa who are doubling. Who, of course, I've got Ollie Watkins there. You've got Brighton doubling again. Brentford doubling. Chelsea are doubling up. Just West Ham are doubling up. Just have a look at that and see what takes your fancy. All those fixtures are on your screen if you're watching along on YouTube or on Twitter. We can run through the fixtures quickly. We've got City, Liverpool, Arsenal, Leeds, Bournemouth, Fulham, Brighton, Brentford, Palace, Leicester, Forest, Wolves, Chelsea, Villa, West Ham, Southampton, Newcastle, Man United, which will, of course, by that point be a Carabao Cup final rematch, Everton, Spurs, Bournemouth, Brighton, Leeds, Forest, Leicester, Villa, Chelsea, Liverpool, Man United, Brentford, West Ham, Newcastle. So a lot of fixtures that you can have a look at there. Now, of course, Newcastle-wise, I'd be under-prepped, but I've got a couple of game weeks to sort that out. But yeah, there's a lot to do. And it was actually because of Mr. Sidenet that I've got a Brighton player in my team. I was looking at a Stupinian already, but he suggested to me to get a Brighton player in when I sent in my team across. So thank you to Pete. You can have your little commission just in case he does well. And this is the issue that I've got with my team is directly related to Ross's comment here. I had looked at Mikalenko, but up until just before this recording, I was another one who had Joe Gomez in my squad. Now, I removed him from the team, not based off injury. I heard all the talk about his game for Liverpool in the Champions League, and I thought, well, maybe does he drop him? Does Matip come back in? But then the injuries basically just solved that array. I didn't watch the Liverpool game. Rovers were playing at the same time, and we got a win, so that's what matters. But Joe Gomez is out injured. Who would you replace him with? 7.2 to spend.
I've got one in mind.
Who? Go on, Chaz.
He's actually in your team. I was going to say Alexander-Arnold being 0.1 off, but I like the look of Andy Robertson.
Yep.
I think he has a good record, especially against Crystal Palace, who it's his first of his double game week opponents this coming weekend, and being at home to Wolves as well holds a good track record against them too.
Yeah, I like that shout. I would have said if you're going like for like, we'll have this as a little discussion point to start off our discussion points section. But low budget defenders, especially prominent for me this week, given that I've got 2 of them in my back 4, okay, they won't start for me every week. Okay, Emerson and Mikolenko are going to be on my bench every week, I think, with one of Andreas or Nonto as this team sits. But I think at 4.3, Mikolenko, there was this talk the other day about at the FPL Social about how the FPL Scout, as good work as the Scout does, how they can sort of ruin your differential picks. Now, I was looking at Mikolenko all week before I decided Gomez was a better option. Of course, I've changed that now. But Mikolenko was raised as a differential pick. And I think the Scout has clocked on, and others may start to do too. So if you've not got a lot of money in, he's a sideways swap from Gomez to Mikolenko. At the moment, his ownership's low. I'm trying to find it. It's usually up the top there. 1%, I thought it was. 1% of teams own him. And it's like a Mark Gay one for me, this, because I had him last season. He was brilliant. I would be going with one of Mikolenko or Emerson. If you don't have the cash, if you've got the funds, go with someone like Robertson or Trent. I would have gone Trent if I could afford him. I don't want to break the bank for him, so I've gone Robertson, who's slightly cheaper. That's where I sit with that, but I think that Robertson is a good pick if you can't quite stretch the funds for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Now, if we're going to move on slightly, we're going to have a full-on captain's corner, Chaz. Go on.
Why Mikolenko over James Tarkowski is priced at 4.2?
Mikolenko, I mean, obviously Tarkowski can get forward from set.
Yeah, so why not Tarkowski? That should be more of a question I'm asking here.
Mikolenko can get forward from fullback. That's the one thing I can sort of think. And I just preferred him as an option to Tarkowski. And that's the way I sit there, but I can see the merit of going Tarkowski. Right, the next little discussion point I want to talk about, of course, we're going to have a full-on captain's corner later, but I just want to have a quick little captaincy discussion between Saka and Marcus Rashford. Not Marcus Rashford, Saka and Salah, I should say, who, of course, they've both got double game weeks. Chaz, do you reckon it is between those two as to who gets your captaincy? And if not, I don't want to spoil too much heading into the captain's corner, but if it's not, have you got someone else who you maybe can throw into the mix for those people out there?
Got a single game week player who's performed relatively consistent all season, which you'll find out in the captain's corner segment. I think Martin Odegaard performs really well away from home too, and being away at Leicester as well. The Foxes tend to play a very open brand of football this season. I feel Leicester suit as a decent opponent for the Norwegian. For Liverpool-wise, could try Darwin Núñez, but the question is how consistent can the Uruguayan be? It seems to have his scoring touchback. But the question is, can he show up when he really matters? Because the last time in a period where he genuinely mattered for us fantasy managers, it proved a bit of a letdown, only delivering one assist in the space of 5 game weeks. Liverpool defence-wise, you could actually have a go at Robbo or Trent. Between Saka and Salah, this is my usual policy. If you're bringing someone in who's nearly 5 million more than the other player, I feel it would be ludicrous not to put the captain on the more expensive player, because what's the point of paying for their funds in the first place?
Yeah, I would go double game week. If you have a player that you can use, if you're not on a wild card or something, I would be going with a double game week myself, but the option is there if you don't want to. We've gone on a bit of a segue, and the segue's carried on for a little while, so we're just going to return
this has
back.
been good. We didn't even type anything up. We've just done it off the cuff.
We're going to return back to normal programming, so to speak, and we're going to go and have a look across the leagues on the FPL Addicts network. 76 points, got first place in the member manager of the week.
Definitely a Freo supporter as well.
Girl, I'm just going to say. So a Dockers supporter, but far from throwing out the anchor this week. 76 points is a wonderful score. Going to Leanne Monticelli, 76 points, 57,500 game week rank. And you have a look at that team, much like mine, but slightly better. Marcus Rashford does the job with the armband.
That's a fantastic delivery. So I was just trying to create a remix of Sonos of Freo. Where to go? Sending fantasy managers down below. Freo.
Nice. I don't mind that right off the top. There you go. That's for you. Our WA-based FPL, or I should say, fans. If you're English and don't know what we're going on about here, this is
I don't know, but what a game week this was.
It all makes sense.
76 points. Rashford just nailed the captaincy call. Bruno Fernandes, a great addition. Shaw, Saka delivering, Kane assist. It's not much I can really say. Just a really solid team with an exceptional score this game week.
Yeah, absolutely wonderful. So wonderful from Leanne there to get the Members League Manager of the Week. In terms of across our league, top of our Members League is currently Martin Watchorn with 1,541 points. 8 points clear of both Daniel Nielsen and Matty McKay, who are on 1,533, I should say. And we've got Donald Breslin there, which is another segue in fourth. He's got the most points in the members head-to-head, 44. Sorry, I think he's clear of the head-to-head, I should say. No, he's on 44 points. I'm misreading everything. So he's top of the league in the head-to-head with 44 points. In the Women's Mini League, Mira currently leads that on 1,000.
Mira, she just keeps dominating on the late show most Fridays, and she just keeps staying on top.
She's had a wonderful season, hasn't she? She's had a wonderful season. But I tell you what, if Leanne can, string a few more scores together, maybe that's the title race we all want to see. It doesn't matter about Arsenal and Man City. It's the
I was just about to mention that too.
That's good. We need to watch. How good! How good is that? So we're gonna have a quick little segue again. We're gonna have a quick little.
We love our segues, don't we?
Quick move in. It's not really a segue as much, but it's just gonna be a little intermission, and we're gonna have a look at bonus bank. I've thrown the outro in there because they do sponsor a podcast. I wanted to put them on the big screen.
I like it.
That is what we can do on these podcasts. We can put them on the big screen. They're at the top of the header of the screen, so to speak.
Good styling.
The only way to guarantee a profit from the bookies, that is their slogan, and it is their advert and their support, which means we can run this podcast, and we're going to have a look at the clean sheet probabilities to start with on this podcast. We're going to go from third to first, and third place, surprisingly somewhat, given how many goals they shipped in midweek, is Liverpool. They've got a 36% chance of keeping a clean sheet against Crystal Palace away from home. I think that is... I'm not sure about that one. As much as I've got a Liverpool defender in my back line and I kind of want them to keep clean sheet, and I had a double Liverpool defence at some point this week, I'm not sure if 36% is doing Crystal Palace much justice there. Second is West Ham. They're playing Nottingham Forest at home. This one I feel slightly more confident about, even though West Ham have been slightly porous at parts this season. 41% chance of them keeping a clean sheet there. And the shoe-in of the week, or should be a shoe-in of the week, Manchester City against Bournemouth away at the Vitality, 47% chance of keeping a clean sheet. In terms of goal scorers this week, we've got 2 from Manchester City, but third is Harry Kane with 39%. Second, Julian Alvarez, 43% chance of scoring. And first, no prizes. Chaz, come on. Have you got it in you? Surely.
Manchester the Terminator.
City. Yeah, the Terminator. Your other favourite name? Nordic Meat Shield.
Yep, that's right. Whatever you want to call them.
That one. Erling Haaland, 9% likely to score against Bournemouth. The Cherries. He's going to feast, isn't he? He's going to have a feast, the Nordic Meat Shield, whatever you want to call him. The Terminator. Cherries probably on the menu for him this weekend. If you want to check out the bonus bank tool, jump in the link tree. The link is on there to access the bonus bank tool. Right, game week 25. Let's move forward and have a look. We've got, of course, a double game week, but we've also got a blank, which is quite interesting. Of course, we've got the 2 teams in the Carabao Cup final that will take place on Sunday between Newcastle and Manchester United. The teams that they were meant to play this weekend, Brentford and Brighton, also blank. Chaz, who are the players, I should say, that will people may be looking to move out based on this blank?
This is a really good question. It depends on the stock within your side. I feel the planning that you may have come across within the last few game weeks is ever so crucial. I feel players who should get shipped out now is Miggy Almiron. To keep, I'd go Kieran Trippier, very obvious, Marcus Rashford. Bruno to an extent, but if it makes it an easy way to get a Liverpool target, I feel that would be justifiable. And then you have Brighton and Brentford, which can cause a bit of a disturbance into the fantasy managers' rhythms with their own side. Doubles-wise, it's mainly an Arsenal-Liverpool relevant sort of game week. I do like Everton's defensive options, especially in Tarkowski, and we've seen it with Mikalenko. I think that's a really good pick. Wolves don't tend to interest me at the moment, if truth be told. For Arsenal, obvious, Saka, Odegaard, an option in defence if you like, but they've seemed to be relatively unreliable in recent times. And for Liverpool, yeah, Salah. Cody Gakpo is another one, which I think he scored away at Newcastle too. He could be a really good budget-friendly option for Mo.
Yeah, I had a little bit of a look at Cody Gakpo, but not what I'm going to bring in this week. Darwin was one that I kind of wanted to bring in, but I've gone instead. I had 3 Liverpool players at the time. I had Robertson, I had Gomez, and I had Salah. But with Gomez out of my team, maybe he's another one I can look at. But I think Ollie Watkins is on good form. But I kind of do want a third Liverpool player. Maybe I can get rid of Bruno Fernandes and stretch the funds from Watkins to Darwin. Maybe that's something I'll look at. But yeah, Wolves, agree on Wolves. They've got a tough game week ahead of them. You think they've got Liverpool away. I mean, of course, Everton are playing against Arsenal, which doesn't help them. But I think that's the one. I think Everton over Wolves, I think, better options. The players I want to ask about, there are a couple that I want to ask about, given, the teams that slightly go under the radar. One from Brighton, one from Brentford. Kairo Matoma, who's been so good for Elliott this season. Ivan Toney, what would you be doing with the pair of them? Not quite premiums, but they've been playing like premiums, especially since the World Cup.
You certainly have. One factor to take into consideration is team value. If you have a lot of value tied up in both of those players, I would consider, oddly enough, even playing a free hit. If it completely ruins your squad, and if you only have 6 or 7 players this game week, you could do your very best to get to 8 to 9. But if you're even on less and you're absolutely stuffed, I'll play with free hit. But for me, I'm not. There's enough players from the different sides who not just have a double, but have a solid single game week as well, in which you should avoid the obstacle of going through that phase.
Yeah, I don't mind that advice from you. Of course, there are a lot of players from all these teams that are either playing twice or not playing at all that you can maybe have a look at trying to factor in your transfer plans. But we'll get on to transfers in a little bit later. Of course, I've already teased my wild card that has got time to change. And something else that's changed is our panel. We've got an increased member. We've obviously heard that Steven Gerrard has been in the thinking of PSG managers. There was also a scouser that they asked that you didn't hear about. That scouser is Chris Reed. Chris, how are we doing, mate?
Well, good evening to you boys. Good evening. It's good to see you. It's a great introduction there. The commentary skills coming in as always, also fantastic. And you, Chaz, looking as sprite as always, mate. So, yeah, fantastic to be kind of on the pod again. I know that, obviously for you all, it doesn't happen often enough these days, but having you is great. But yeah, looking forward to the game week on the back of obviously 24. We've got a double game week this week, blank game week, as you guys have discussed in the pod already. And there's a few things to obviously consider. Now is almost the time just before chip strategies and, this, that, and the other. And speaking of chips, Mans is using his wild card. Wow. Wasn't expecting that one all.
Certainly. I think my team's been a shambles since the World Cup, and I think this might be the time just to revitalise things a little bit. But speaking about strategies, Reedy, we're going to go back and see what your strategy was in the game week just gone. Of course, we had that little bit of verbal banter or over WhatsApp banter, I guess we should call it, given that we didn't actually say anything. But this week, you said how I'm only back on here because I scored the most points this game week. You seem to be over here. In that sense, then, because you got the second most points in the podcast in this game week, 4 points worse off than me. So, so the 1 week that I'm on is the 1 week that I've had a better week than you. Normally you'd be the best one on the pod for the week, but not quite this week. Still a good week though. 63 points is nothing to be sniffed at. Take us through it, mate.
Not a bad week at all. I can't complain. And the main thing really there is transfers is 0, which is difficult to come by for me. Usually it's I've used the one or I've not rolled or I've taken a hit. So yeah, 63. I had a little look between our league and who'd captain who, and I noticed you'd captain Rashford. And I thought, he's gone a bit different as Mr. Walker feels. So fair play to you for that one. I picked up Fernandes and Rashford's points. I think a few people had moved Fernandes on already last week, And obviously he managed to get 2 assists and 3 bonus, which was great. So those two really sort of carried the team. Martin Odegaard was brilliant for Arsenal. I think he picked up 3 bonus. And then another thing that worked out for me as well, was I benched Martinelli. Now, I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but I benched Martinelli for Mahrez. I also, played Rico Lewis. Now, neither of those got any minutes. So Pep did me another favour because the week before I benched Luke Shaw and managed to get his points because Rico Lewis didn't feature again. So I've got away with it twice, in 2 weeks, really, in the sense that Martinelli came on at the end and got that, open net, wasn't it, Chazza? Open net, mate. So, yeah, those 6 points.
He's going for props. He's going for props, is Chaz. He's left his seat. He's going to go and find something for those watching, I think. And for those listening along, there's not much we can really do here. What have you got, Chaz? This is show and tell on the FPL podcast.
Because of your game week, Chris.
Yeah.
I've probably come to the conclusion I've got to ship over some strawberry jam, considering how jammy your game week's gone. But also, I've got to ship something off to you and Rev, and that is our wonderful bucket hats we got from the FPL social event last Saturday.
Beautiful.
So once we come in your way, it is part of my to-do list, as well as 21 other tasks. But you'll get yours eventually.
I left mine back there. I think
you're an idiot.
It. Cheers, Chad.
What were you doing?
But yeah, 63 points for Edie if we go back on track. They do look decent. I will say the bucket hats, whoever ordered them, well done for ordering them. But
that's been Jack.
I needed 2 sizes larger because my head is massive and doesn't fit in that hat. So me leaving it behind isn't that big a deal, I don't think, as much as I'd love to have it. Because
I was about to say, is there much given them all? Because I might struggle. I've got a Tetris set as well.
Maybe if I worked at it, maybe if I was too busy thinking about hosting the event. But maybe if I worked at it, maybe for the Sydney one, maybe if somebody could just order me a slightly larger bucket hat, that would be absolutely immense. But I wanted to wait for you, Chris, before I brought up this question from Tiffany. It is a Liverpool-orientated one. She says she's moved KDB to Salah. Patterson to Tarkowski's also been done for a 4-point hit. No other Liverpool moves except Kane to Darwin Núñez. Do you think it's worth it?
I do, yeah. I think if you're going to take hits, double game weeks is the one to kind of do it because you can make up for it. And I think, albeit that you look at Liverpool against Everton and Newcastle, we're looking great. So you kind of take the upside from that and you take the sample from that, that defensively we didn't concede. So we did look a bit better, although we got away with it in the Newcastle game. And it's almost like you can't really take much from the Real Madrid game either, that, we ended up getting a thumping at the end of the game. But it's Real Madrid, you know what I mean? It's Real Madrid. So I think in terms of this week's moves, Patterson doesn't look quite up to it yet. I think he featured for the under-21, so... KDB to Salah, Patterson to Tarks. I think that's a good move. And then -8, Kane to Darwin. I don't see why not. I don't see why not. I think -4 is probably the minimum this week that you could look at taking. But we'll go on to taking hits and minuses later because mine's more in the latter stages of Tiff's question there. Tiff, go for it. Why not? As I say, double game week
this week. Kane to Darwin. Now, I just want a question. You're speaking about the under-21.
Hold on a second, Chaz. The comment's blocking your face. There you go.
That's all right. All good. People don't need to see my face. They just want to hear me audio. Speaking about the under-21s, is there a FPL game bet for under-21s players only? Because I feel that's where my nonsense team actually belongs instead of the actual game here. Considering last in the mini league, on the verge of getting relegated.
Well, there's a championship fantasy if you fancy that.
Oh, is there? Okay.
Because that's probably where you'll be next season, mate.
Get yourself on Gaffer, Chazza.
We're there with Everton.
Oh.
Yeah. No, Everton will be fine. But yeah, let's hopefully get an upturn in form, Chaz. Just on Darwin in isolation, regardless of the hits, I actually wouldn't mind Darwin, and I think I might try and make a move because Bruno Fernandes is just sitting there on my bench, and I don't know if I want to carry him forward past his game week. At the moment, I am doing. I might look at Darwin Núñez over one of Ollie Watkins or Wilfred Nonto, depending on who I want to move Fernandez to. Anyway, we've talked a lot about my team.
Well, I was going to say, not to kind of like, I know you want to move on from that, but I mean, I think you've talked about your wild card, but I don't know if it's been talked about enough. And when I say that, I mean is you didn't really highlight that using your wild card now is all good and well, but moving forward into game weeks 28, which is a blank, game week 29, which is a double, game week 32, which could be a big blank, and game week 34. I mean, I know we're talking way ahead of you guys, but you know, this is the kind of stuff I do these days. Planning is what it's about. Have you considered any of those game weeks and what your chip strategy is going to be without the wild card?
Well, yeah, I've considered the game weeks immediately ahead, which is up to game week 29. Now, 29, I played this chip earlier in the week. So yeah, I looked at game week 29. I think everybody's basically doubling up in 29. When I say I want to move on, by the way, I just don't want to talk about my team so much. I want to get around to everybody else. But I
love it. I love you talking about
game week 29. I just don't want to be so self-centered. That's all. Game week 29, everybody's doubling up. So I think that one I can write off. Game week 27, I talked about with Chaz earlier on. I heard on TikTok or rumors or things that the Palace Brighton game could be set for another postponement due to rail strikes again. Because that was the reason why it was initially postponed. So that one becomes less of an issue if it's only Brentford doubling up. Now, game week 34, that's too far into the future for me. Yeah. I think a lot is going to change between now and then.
Just to break the news to you all, that game isn't going to be taken out of that game week. So if you look, it's been moved to the Wednesday instead of the Thursday. So it still falls in the 27th. Brighton still get the double. Yeah.
I've got Brighton cover on my bench. I've got Estupinian on my bench.
And you think that's cover for 27, just one Brighton, no Brentford or anything like that?
Just for the moment, because there's only, from Brighton or Brentford, the only other player that I think I'd actually want, or the only couple of players I'd actually want, would be Mitoma and Ivan Toney. I don't think defensively they maybe, but look, I think that I've got Ollie Watkins at the moment around that price point that if I do go from Fernandez to somebody and then Nonto to Darwin Nunez this week, I can pretty much sidestep from Watkins to Toney if I want him for the double anyway.
Yeah.
So I've got contingency plans in place for that double.
That's what I was kind of going to say is that if you say, for example, change your mind and come game week 27, if you roll in 26 and you wanted to bring in a Brighton or a Brentford or two from whichever team, have you set up in a way that, okay, well, the blank's in 28, more than likely Fulham beat Leeds in the Cup next week, and that then puts Liverpool and Fulham as a blank in 28. So your Liverpool players then wouldn't be in your team, so to speak. You know, you'd have to consider that. So all I'm kind of, the long story short is just try and plan your wild card if you can now in a way that you can kind of navigate 28 if it's possible. Yeah,
it's on Leeds. There's nothing saying that Leeds can't beat Fulham in the Cup.
Yeah, no, there's not. But the percentage of that is about 60%, for Fulham to go through and win that game. If Leeds go and win, then the Leeds Wolves fixture goes into 28. So if you've got any, I don't know, Wolves play, I know you've got Nonto, but I don't know if you wanted a Wolves defender instead or something like that. Because obviously Wolves double this week. So, it's Kilman is a potential, he's the flavour at the moment in terms of Wolves defenders. So it's just maybe about looking at that. I mean, have you got your free hit still?
I do not.
I've
got my bench boost. I've got bench boost, I think.
When did you use your free hit?
Oh, a while ago.
Yeah, so it really makes it kind of tricky for you in terms of how many players you're going to be able to field. So you've got thinking time now. Obviously, the deadline.
I'll be able to field enough. I'll be fine.
Try and have a tinker. Yeah,
I'll have a think.
He doesn't get nervous, but he's starting to feel a bit shaking now, isn't he?
I'm not feeling nervous. I
think Watkins is a great pick because he solves you in 28. He also solves you. He doubles in 29. They'll have a double fixture. I think they might play in 32 also. So he's a great pick in that respect. But I think someone like Fernandez, you could potentially leave behind for now.
That's what I'm thinking of doing. That was the one of the bench. There's no way I'm moving Rashford. No way I'm moving Rashford. Fernandez was on the thinking about moving. But listen,
Awesome.
I'm going up to Harry Styles tomorrow night. He's playing in Melbourne. I've got the whole journey back, whole journey up, whole journey back to sort out my team. And maybe we can find something in there. It's not quite music for an FPL manager, but hopefully we can find something to sort myself out. Maybe I can turn the style on in my team and find some results, find some points from somewhere to get me up that FPL mini league. I do want to move on from my team because there's so many other managers out there who want things to be want questions to be addressed. First of all, I want to go back to the comment from Stephen right off the top. Hi all, hope Reedy is all right. I want to bring that one up.
Well, it's been 2 nights now, so the wounds are sort of healed a little bit, if you like, on that one, Stephen. But I appreciate his concern and so on. I want to forget about that as quickly as possible, and hopefully we can beat him 5-0 at the Bernabeu.
Yeah,
probably not.
I know we're not literally in the same room, but could someone just pinch Reedy and wake him up from his dream, please? There's no chance Liverpool. I said to a mate of mine who supports Liverpool the other day, if Liverpool come back and win that game, it will be a greater result than the Barcelona game a couple of years ago. If they can turn it around by a mile, it will be a better result.
Yeah, 100% would. I mean, it'd be away first and foremost, which is obviously a difficult task in itself. But I think it. Well, I don't know. Messi in the Barca team at that time, really. Oh, I don't know. I think it is a close call.
It will be purely because they're away, I reckon. But this isn't Champions League fantasy. We're here to talk about Premier League, and at the moment we can jump to a little quick segment just after we bring up this comment from Gillas, who I think shares the delusion of everybody else. Everybody thinks you're deluded if Liverpool are going to win 5-0.
Is he at another MCG networking event?
Possibly, but he has not had much to shout about over a Liverpool fan. Now he finally does. When Man United does do something, he's not quiet, is Gillas. He likes to rub it in when he can. So I'm not surprised. He's a good ninny, Gillas, and he gives everybody some much needed advice there. So stay tuned for Captain's Corner with CC, with Chaz, which will come up very shortly.
It's going to go tonight.
But not before we have a quick little mention of another one of our sponsors. Of course, we did mention just before we had the bonus bank mention. And of course, we've got to mention our other sponsor, our other wonderful sponsor, EPL Live, who of course are an app that have all the Premier League highlights over here in Australia. If you've not downloaded it already, then get onto it now. Of course, EPL Live by Sportsmate, which is built by football fans for football fans. It combines live scores and those in-depth team and player stats alongside the latest breaking football news and video highlights. The link to download that is in the caption and on our link tree. Get onto that if you haven't done so already. So let's move forward to the game week. We've talked a lot about my transfers, so we're going to skip them for now. Reedy, Chaz, what are your transfers to the upcoming game week and why?
Go with Reedy first. I haven't checked my screen yet.
You want me to go? Here we go then, boys. Let's crack on, shall we? No messing about. So for me this week, there's the full 11. Now I've brought in Trent. I've brought in Tarkowski. I've also brought in Salah, and I've also brought in Darwin for a -8 this week. Team needed a little bit of a bump up. I had Shaw and Trippier in there. I had Fernandes in there, and I also had Harry Kane in there. So those guys have gone, and we've got the doublers in. So up to this point, I mean, it's not going to change, obviously, but you look at me having potentially 8 doublers for this game week. Now, I say potentially because Bueno, he's been a little bit sort of unpopular for Wolves at the minute. He's been benched. Aitonori's been coming in. So for me, it's more the Fulham fixture and hoping that he plays and gets a clean sheet tomorrow night. The Liverpool one, when we bring in Salah and Darwin in, not so much. Or if he gets benched, fair enough. So yeah, I've got the 3 Arsenal guys. I'm not going to lie. I would like to have Saka. That's been causing me a bit of aggro, not having the star boy in there. And so that kind of makes the captain pick easy, other than people who've kind of got Saka and Salah and having to pick between. I do admit that I think Saka's fixtures are better, and I think that he's got the potential to score more points than Salah. But yeah, captain's armband on Salah. So I've kind of covered 2 in 1 there in terms of team selection and captain. There we go.
Chaz?
What's your
But
thoughts, Chaz?
Are you
Yeah.
wanting my consultancy brought to you by Tim Flowers on the review of Chris's side? Or are you actually going into my team now?
Well, the bottle. He's not bottled it like you bottled that wild card, mate. He's not bottled it. He's not bottled it. I want
I
your
think I've
team.
got my shared screen in the background for you, Ollie.
Yeah. Let's have a look.
Cool.
There we go.
Right.
Is that your team there?
I'm just
That is, isn't it?
Yeah, so we got 2 free transfers, 0.5 in the bank. This is what we got. But firstly, let's go to the pick team selection where we pick people's bones. This is where we're at for now, genuinely. Saka is captain. I feel in this side at the moment, pending transfers, he's the most obvious captain choice. Harry Kane is being considered alongside Erling Haaland. But we've got 10 at the moment. We're probably going to utilise both free transfers. But not sure what to do yet.
Right, nice. So you're going to use both those free transfers. We're going to talk about captains in a minute, but we'll talk about Chaz's captains in a minute. But in terms of our captains, I'm going to Starboy, Bukayo Saka. I don't think you can look past him. As I said before, great guy off the pitch, great guy on the pitch, and I think he's gonna nail it. I brought him in. My wild card, one of the reasons I wanted to get it done was because of Saka. I didn't have him. I wanted him. I've got him. The armband is on him. Reedy, your plan for captains this week? You haven't got him, have you? You haven't got Saka.
No, so it's Mo Salah for me. He's returned lately, albeit he's still not looked, the most amazing. But he basically got 6 against Newcastle, 6 points there. He got an assist. He got a goal against Everton, and it came out with 11 points. So maybe it's. He also obviously scored against Real Madrid, albeit it was a Courtois error. So for me, he's kind of looking there or thereabouts in terms of his chances and so on. Maybe from an XG point of view, or an XGI point of view, it's not the highest that it could be. But yeah, because I don't have Saka, it has to be Salah for me in terms of a double game weeker. I could go Odegaard as sort of a differential compared to those two that we've mentioned, Salah and Saka. But I just think Salah's, with him being on pens, has the edge.
Nice. I don't mind that reasoning. But of course, when it comes to captains, we've got one guru on this podcast. He's got the flowing
The guru. That was last season's guru. Now I'm called the guru. I'm not sure about
he's our captain's guru. Call him whatever you want. He's the captain's legend. He knows what he's on about. He's got the flowing locks. Now, who has he got? His armband locked onto this game week. Chaz, take it away, my friend.
Sure. We're going to start with the Soccer AM tune, which existed at the start of 2017, and it goes with this. We got. What's Ollie got a camera?
I'm trying to put you on the screen.
I'm just going to wait. What is this? This is a genuine debacle. Here we go. All right, so it goes as this. We got Salah with no money and no Bobby Firmino. Oh, geez, I stuffed that up. But he plays with Nunes, though. We'll go to Salah. First time in a while he's featured back in a captaincy corner conversation. He's returned in his last 2 game weeks with a goal against Everton and assist against 10-man Newcastle, plus with a double game week coming up. And as I type this, he's the second most transferred in player, surprisingly, with just over 230,000 new owners. He holds a very good record against Crystal Palace. 11 appearances, 7 goals, 6 assists. In the reverse fixture in game week 2, it marked his first blank against the Eagles since game week 2 of the 2017/18 campaign, which is also the first time he played them. In all competitions, he's scored in 4 of his last 6 meetings against Wolves as a starter, and it also included the last 3 meetings against Wolves at Anfield. Bukayo Saka, the other captaincy option with a huge debate in his name. He's got Leicester away, Everton at home. I'll go to his record against the Toffees first. He doesn't hold a pleasing record. However, every time Arsenal have managed to score at home against him, he's managed to return. He's ranked 7th for teams selected by managers in the top 100, the top 1K, and top 10K overall. Furthermore, he's returned in 7 of his last 9 league games since the restart, plus returned. In every game, Arsenal has scored him within that time with 5 goals and 2 assists. He's ranked inside the top 10 of all players for most points scored within the last 6 game weeks. Option number 3, Andy Robertson. We've mentioned him on the podcast already. He has an appealing record, especially against Crystal Palace. In his last 5 games prior to their 1-1 draw earlier in the season, he managed 3 clean sheets, had 3 assists, alongside a goal in their infamous 7-0 away win at Selhurst Park in front of no one, and when Palace were under the management of Roy Hodgson. Martin Odegaard, very quickly, he has a very good track record away from home. He's returned in Arsenal's last 4 games Arsenal scored away. Riyad Mahrez, this is a very interesting one too. Now, so he didn't play a minute against Forest. He played the entire 90 minutes away at Leipzig, full 90 minutes, got the goal that they needed for a 1-1 draw. But funny enough, Man City became the first team in a Champions League match not to make a single substitution since October 2018. Of course, there's Haaland, but if you want a bit of a differential, more importantly, he has to start. That is the Algerian, who turned 32 this week. Last but not least, I'll be very short on this, Harry Kane at home to Chelsea. And yes, I hope Ollie's having fun there with the different camera angles. That's why he's not a camera operator yet. He scored the reverse fixture in game week 2 away at Stamford Bridge. And as well, Harry has blanked 6 times only this season. It shows how consistent he's been. How many times have I need to tell people on this podcast and to the listeners out there? However, prior to him scoring in the reverse fixture, the last time the Spurs scored in a league game against Chelsea goes all the way back in February 2020. Before that, it was November 2018. Within that time frame, it was a run of 6 league games for Tottenham where they did not score a single league goal against Chelsea. But with Harry Kane, you can always go against the grain. That's my captain's corner. Brief, solid, to the point. And Salah has different attacking opponents this time around. Thanks for coming.
All right. What I'm going to say is, first of all, apologies for the bad producing. Some of that was me and some of it wasn't. Some of it was completely taken out of my hands. But yeah, I was just clicking buttons and trying to put Chaz on the top, but I couldn't do it. So apologies for that. First of all, who's clicking buttons? I don't want to. Why am I having to solo front this as if I'm doing an apology to the camera? I'm really, really sorry for being an average producer. Anyway, good captain's corner from Chaz as always. The song again gets me. I think it will be Saka though for me. I don't think the Salah Nunez song with no Mane, I don't think it's going to sway me. Even though Mane is the best football player in the world, I don't think that's going to sway me into him for a captain this week. I don't know what's going on with the screen.
Where's Burger King? That's all I want to know.
This is tomfoolery. You know what? Just to bring it home, we'll bring up the man, the myth, the Burger King. If we can, there we go. Chaz now doesn't exist. He's been replaced. He's been replaced on this podcast by someone in Australia who doesn't even exist. Yeah, we don't have Burger King over here, but Chaz has been blocked. We should have done this right from the start. Game week 1, shouldn't we? No, we shouldn't. But anyway, that is Captain's Corner done. And I think that is another episode of the FPL Addicts podcast done and dusted. I don't think there's any more questions. We'll have a quick look. We've got one from Stephen here. Haaland to Darwin, Kepa to Pickford for free, point formula extra to get the back and start captain. What do we think, lads, to round this off? Final question of the podcast.
Haaland out is a very interesting one, considering the amount of team value that could be tied up in them.
That's the only point that I would raise as to that. I think Haaland, if you want to be bold, you could get rid of him.
I just wouldn't do it this. Is he talking about this week? I'm guessing Stephen doing that.
I'm assuming so, yeah.
He's got Bournemouth, right? Oof. Yeah.
Yeah, probably not.
I wouldn't chance it just because he's got Bournemouth. So, yeah, Haaland to Darwin. If there's another route of doing that, then I'd go the other way if you can, Stephen.
Well, I saw Planner talk about this on Twitter, actually, get rid of Haaland. And when Planner talks, you usually listen. So if Planner's doing it, then maybe it's everything. Everyone should be doing it. Anyway, I think that's the discussion we'll have on the next episode of the FPL Addicts podcast. It has been a pleasure to be back, joined alongside Chris and Chaz. It's been absolutely awesome to be back on the podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We thank you for your company this evening, this morning, wherever you may well be watching along. A big thanks, of course, to Bonus Bank for supporting us and our community this season. Of course, it's Australia and New Zealand's fastest growing side hustle. Make sure you check their captions down below on how to take advantage of their promotions. Use the code FPL Addicts to help take advantage of those as well. Thanks to all of you for tuning in, of course. We'll be back for next week. Keep an eye out on the FPL Addicts socials and make sure you do subscribe and follow as Chaz throws on the bucket hat. There's a nice way to end off the episode. Stay safe, everyone. Take care, and we'll see you soon on another episode of the FPL Addicts podcast. Bye.
A bosh.
Now, ends with a bosh. Of course he does. He had to do it. See you later, everyone.